we have to decide how we're going to instruct the jury about what to consider and what not to consider as to Mr. Copeland's testimony. Now, this assumes, this assumes that Mr. Copeland decides to testify. Obviously, if he decides at this point, on Monday not to take the stand at all, then it's a pretty easy instruction because it's disregard everything you heard from this witness. But if that's not the case, then does anybody have a proposal for how we are going to, and I think that's what the state had sent something on. And has the defense had a chance to look, and is there, I think Mr. Williams maybe has just sent over his proposed instruction, which hopefully everybody has gotten. All right. All right. So Mr. Williams' motion, his language, that looks pretty good to me. Obviously, we don't need to include the case law sites, but I mean, that looks like a good thing to sort of work from. Now, one thing I guess I was asking, but not very clearly yesterday, was it seemed like there was kind of a fairly clean break between the topics that were covered before the recusal motion and the topic that was covered after the recusal motion. And that being, I think like on the one day, the question opened with, all right, now let's turn to the murder of Nutt or the murder of Donovan Thomas or whatever. And that was after the recusal motion had been filed. So was there any discussion of the murder of Donovan Thomas with Mr. Copeland prior to the recusal motion? Because it would be pretty easy to also say, not just with regard to dates and times, but anything about the Thomas murder, disregard, if that only came up after the recusal motion was filed.
Your Honor, with respect to any reference, I haven't had a chance to listen to all of it and read all of the testimony and all of the questions that Ms. Hilton asked of Mr. Copeland. But I can say that so I at this time, I would ask that the court not instruct the jury as to disregard any specific subject, because.
Well, I'm wondering, so I mean, y'all have had the point of getting y'all all the testimony was, well, one of the points was so that you could look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't looked at it. I'm looking for a reading. Yeah.
So, I mean, if there is kind of a break in terms of subject matter as well, that'd be an easy thing to instruct on. But does anybody know the answer to that?
So
You do? Okay. What's the answer?
I misspoke yesterday, but there were video portions of Mr. Copeland's statements on early morning hours of January 11th, 2015, as well as January, I think it's 21, 2015, played for the jurors.
Uh-huh.
They were small. They were like, quote unquote, real impeachment.
Right.
After that, though, after the motion to recuse was filed, is the wholesale playing of various recordings. So I don't think that it would be appropriate to say disregard everything. I have all my notes.
Okay.
And I have the transcript.
Okay.
But he did discuss things that you're talking about. He did discuss his relationship with Mr. Williams, his relationship with Donovan Thomas, with Mr. Kelvin Watts.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he was getting there.
Okay, but if it's all that sort of background relationship stuff, that's not the murder of Donovan Thomas. That's all the background.
It's a little
So,
bit relevant.
so what I'm trying to sort out is, had there been any testimony about the actual, here's the night of the murder stuff before the recusal motion?
So, Judge, it's when you say about it, in as much as it's relevant to the issue of the murder itself. That's the reason why I was asking the relationship between parties and all of those kind of issues.
That's not what I mean. And we can be clear about that. I mean, the night of the murder, the what happened, how the murder went down.
I think it's safe to say that as far as Mr. Copeland is concerned, the specifics of the night of the murder information or evidence was given post-recusal motion.
All right. Is there anybody that disagrees with that? All right. Thank you.
Would the court consider the state's position that in characterizing any evidence in any way, it could imply to the jury that certain other evidence does not fall into that category? So in other words, any evidence of the night of the murder, I'm not certain how the court will be instructed.
I'm not either. That's what we're supposed to be tailoring today. That's what I wanted y'all to be giving lots of thought to. But yeah, no, I want to tailor it in such a way that I don't mislead the jury about anything. But y'all all agree that we have to tell them to disregard some of it. And I mean, yeah, maybe the cleanest thing to do is, XYZ date, but people don't normally think about their lives in, June 3rd. Okay. I know exactly what June 3rd had to do with, unless it happens to be their birthday or something like that. But so, yeah, I mean, I'll consider all of what you want to offer me, but okay.
Personally, I'm not speaking for, I went by my notes as well as a transcript, but my notes have more things, I guess, they were my notes, but I don't have anything specifically talking about the Donovan Thomas murder before Mr. Weinstein filed the motion to recuse. I do have like a January 11, 2015 interview by Detective Thorpe of Mr. Copeland. And
Yeah.
it is admitted over objection, and it was played from 3:29:46 to 3:30:13. And I have to go back and remember what that was about, but I have little things like that, but I don't have any specific.
That's very helpful. And I knew there were a couple of small snippets of videos played. So if you've actually got the timestamp as to what parts were played, then it's easy enough to have somebody look at those snippets and see what it covered.
Can I announce now or?
Yeah.
So everyone can check. I have States Exhibit 378Y, as in Yankee, B as in Barry, 6, and these are the time slots, 6:46:34 to 6:46:44, and that's a January 28th, 2015 interview.
Okay.
And then I have the January 11, 2015 interview marked at States Exhibit 358A as in Elisa, and it's at the time I just said, which is 3:29:46 to 3:30:13. That's what I have. And then I have nothing else about specifically his interviews after the killing.
Okay, 329:46 to,
3:30:13,
okay, thank you.
and that's at 358A, isn't it?
All right, and I think that's, our review had only revealed those two, anything from those two videos also. All right, anybody else have a different recollection about either more videos or the specific topic of the night of the murder having come up prior to the recusal motion? If so, please let me know.